Why not a home studio?
Because then I literally wouldn't leave. I have a home studio, but I don't have everything that I need to make like a record. I can make my demos, and like if I have like a song idea, I can play the guitar and then just lay down that. But I don't have a full studio, because if I did, I would really never leave. I probably would put a Starbucks in like my garage, so I would never have to go anywhere.
Is that what happened with Pharrell? That, like, you kind of had him over and then...
Yeah, he came over to my house and he showed up, and I don't really, except when I'm doing, work, like, I don't really get ready for anything. I'll never put my shoes on. I'm like, no, when people come over, I'm like a mess. Like, it's like you're at my house, so it's like I'm always chilling. So he comes over and he's like, I love that. He's like, I love when I walk into someone's house and it feels like a home, not like you're walking into a museum.
Some big palatial
Yeah, and my
estate.
place is so not like that. Like, my place is just really cozy, and my dogs are like, my couches all have holes in them because my dogs tear everything up. And, so it's like my house, when you walk in, it just feels like you're at home. And so he loved that. And so then I went to Miami, and he works, out of a studio that is like a house also. So it was dope making the record with him, because I would go into the booth, come out, jump in the pool, be in Miami, hang out, go back in, work till late. And so it was like the best experience ever. It's like, doesn't feel like work.
Is it true that he was not a guy that people encouraged you to work with?
People at that time, this was before Blurred Lines had been at #1 for what feels like the past 10 years.
Months, yeah.
Like, it literally feels like this song has been played forever. So it's literally kind of changed his life, what he's been doing with Daft Punk, and then what he's been with Robin Thicke, and then working on, what he's been working on just with his projects of other artists he's discovered. So people at that time, I think that was before that had really happened. So they just didn't really understand what me and Pharrell were going to be able to come with that was new. Because I'm like, that's exactly right, though. That's why people are loving Blurred Lines so much and Get Lucky, because it takes you out of this place of where everything was sounding like so the same. Everything was getting so stale on the radio. And he just cut through with something, again, so Pharrell. It's such a, like, when it comes on, it's Pharrell. And so that's what I wanted from him for the record. It wasn't ever trying to get Pharrell to somehow meet up with like a pop artist. It was like, I want these two worlds to collide, and that's what he did with Gwen. That's what he did with Justin. That's what he did with Britney. It's like, so he knows how to like meet up in that world also, but he's also just kind of gives you that like old like funky feel, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to sound like everything else.
It's funny, you're right. After all that track record, it's surprising that people would ever doubt the two of you working together.
Yeah.
So now hearing the final product, and obviously, with Blurred Lines and Get Lucky all over the radio.
I love watching people eat their words, because it's like so good, and especially because when you have to be a fan, I think it's something about too, and I think it's why my fans have been like so inspired by what I've been doing with the music video and everything, is just they know what's cool, and people in the suits think they know what's cool, but they don't.
Right.
Because Pharrell is still, I feel like, especially to like my generation, like he's like a living like legend to us, and that's what I grew up listening to. And now hearing him back on the radio so much, it just feels good. And people, I feel like younger people know what feels good, especially because you go out and you hear what gets played, and something that doesn't sound like Get Lucky does not sound like like a club record, and you go out and that bangs, and as a young person, that that's going to happen. When you go out that's going to feel good when you're out, and people think too much. People think too much about what it's necessarily just going to sound like on the radio, and that's only one little part of it. You got to think about what it's going to sound like when someone's listening in those like shitty little iPod, earphones. That's what I listen to when I'm listening to the record. I have an iPhone check where I listen to my whole record on my iPhone just on speaker, because that's what it needs to sound good on. Not everyone else is listening to it in the studio.
Yeah, everything sounds great on a big stereo.
Yeah, and usually when you're in a club, everything is sounding good, but it's really about when people are on their own, when they're listening to it in their car. I always do the Prius check too. I'm like, everyone in LA drives a Prius, so I gotta make sure it sounds good in the Prius. And so I check it out in every different car.